Welcome back to the channel, everyone. I know it's been a long time since my last video, but I am finally back. Today, we are doing something a bit different. While I play some Roblox, I will be telling you a spooky story in the background. Turn off the lights, grab a snack, and let's get into it.
Five years ago, I got out of a serious relationship. I had been with her for almost a decade. We started dating in high school and stayed together through college and beyond. I feel like high school sweethearts rarely work out in the end. For the first time in a long time, I was gonna try dating. I had no idea how to even date as an adult, so I did what a lot of people did and downloaded some dating apps. I went on a few dates with a few different women, but they went nowhere. That changed when I met JoJo. Her name was Josephina, but she hated it, so she went by JoJo. We started talking and taking things slow because we both got out of long-term relationships. Not long into our brand new relationship, she was asking me to sleep over at her place. At first, I turned down the invitation because I liked taking it slow, and sleeping over was a huge step for me. She kept asking me almost every day if I would sleep over, even going as far as telling me I could take the couch if I was uncomfortable. I finally asked her why she wanted me to stay over so badly. She got quiet and almost looked embarrassed. She said she didn't want to tell me the reason, but it would mean the world if I stayed. I told her I would stay only if she told me the reason, and I promised I wouldn't judge her, a promise that I was about to break in about 2 minutes. She went on to tell me that for the last few weeks, she hasn't been able to sleep well. She would wake up in the middle of the night and swear she could see someone standing in the corner of her bedroom. She originally thought it was just shadows. Darkness has a way of playing tricks on her eyes, but when she would wake up in the morning, that corner with the shadow was empty, and nothing around the room looked like it could make a person-shaped shadow. Over the few weeks that followed, she said that she had become even more scared. She said she couldn't even get out of bed if she wanted to. She slept on the couch one night, and when she woke up in the middle of the night, the shadow figure was standing in a doorway. She was convinced she was going crazy. The night before she told me all this, she threw a stuffed animal at the shadow to prove that she wasn't crazy. But instead of the stuffed animal just hitting the wall, it hit the shadow, and the figure moved slightly. Part of me felt bad. She was practically in tears when she was telling me all this. I wasn't lying when I said I was about to break the promise of not judging her. I have a bad habit of turning things into jokes in serious moments to cope with my awkward emotions, and in this situation, humor failed. I smiled and told her that it had to be the monster under her bed. She was even more upset by that comment. She went on to say that this is why she didn't want to tell me, because she knew that I would think she was crazy. I told her I didn't think she was crazy, and that there was most definitely some kind of rational explanation. I suggested that maybe it was some type of sleep paralysis. I remember hearing stories of people seeing shadow entities, but she was convinced that it wasn't that. I told her to try sleeping with the light on. If the light were super bright, then no shadow monsters can form. She told me that she tried that, and instead of seeing a shadow in the corner of her room, the closet door cracked open on its own, and the shadow was in the closet. I hate to say this and sound like an insensitive jerk, but I was starting to think that JoJo was a little crazy. It's not that I didn't believe her, it's that I didn't believe she was seeing a shadow monster or whatever. In my opinion, there's always an explanation for the unexplainable. In an effort to do some damage control for my monster under the bed comment, I agreed to stay over that night. It was like 8 o'clock that night, and she was already falling asleep on the couch during the movie we were watching. She was exhausted from not sleeping well for the last few weeks. I remember having a fleeting thought that maybe JoJo was hallucinating from lack of sleep. I decided not to wake her up since she looked so uncomfortable. She was dead asleep, fully extended on the couch, and I was sitting upright next to her head playing with her hair. A few hours had passed, and I finally started getting tired. I turned the TV off and tried to get as comfortable as I could while sitting in this upright position. Eventually, I fell asleep. I don't recall the exact time, but JoJo woke me up at some point during the night. She looked terrified and told me to look in the doorway at the far side of the room. I squinted, and I had to admit, even though it was nearly pitch black, I did see a strange shadow that didn't make a lot of sense. I tried to get up to investigate, but she grabbed my arm and begged me to stay where I was. I started to shout at the shadow, and I felt crazy. It literally felt like I was just yelling at the dark. She was crying and told me that because I could also see the shadow, it must be some kind of entity. She said that part of her was just hoping that she was crazy and seeing things. I told her it wasn't an entity, and if she would let me get up to investigate, I could prove that it was nothing, but she still held me down. I asked her what happens next, and she said nothing. It just stares at her. I was being ignorant at the time because this all just seemed ridiculous to me. If whatever this thing is was real and doesn't move or attack, then who cares? I decided I was going to pick up one of the throw pillows on the couch that was next to me and throw it at the shadow in the doorway. My logic was that if it's truly just a shadow in the doorway, this pillow will go right through it. Just as I was about to throw the pillow, JoJo stopped me. She reminded me that she already threw something at it and the shadow moved. She didn't want it to move again. I told her I needed to see it for myself. I grabbed the pillow and threw it as hard as I could at the doorway, expecting to see the pillow continue to sail right through the shadowy door frame. Instead, I heard a thud, and I watched the pillow hit something and fall to the ground. Then, whatever shadow was in the doorway slowly disappeared into the room behind the doorway. I sat up now, and for the first time, I was on high alert. I could not explain what that was. JoJo was hysterical on the couch, crying and screaming that something wasn't right. Even though she continued to hold me down, I got up and made my way to the doorway. She was screaming at this point to come back to the couch. When I got to the doorway, I didn't enter right away because I heard something. It was a whisper coming from the dark room. I tried to hear what it was saying, but I couldn't make out any words, just that it was definitely the sound of a whisper. As I tried to take a step into the dark room, the door closed on my face, causing me to fall back. I heard JoJo scream behind me. I got up and tried to enter the room, but the door was locked. I could hear the sound of things moving and breaking from the other side of the door. It sounded like a whirlwind on the other side. Then it was quiet. I left the door and turned on the light. I went to my bag, which was next to the couch, and grabbed my keys. I had one of those tools on my keychain to pick a lock. I successfully picked the lock and went into the room. I turned on the light, and the room was a mess. JoJo had used this room for her home office. It had a desk, a computer, a bookcase, and a bunch of books and paperwork. The furniture, all the books and papers were everywhere in this room. It was like a tornado was set loose in there. Two things I noticed right away were that the window in that room was wide open and there was no screen, and most importantly, no shadowy figure anywhere to be seen. I could hear JoJo yelling from the couch, asking if I was okay. I came out and told her that everything's okay and that the room was a mess. I suggested calling the police, and she claimed that it wouldn't do anything. She insisted that it was some paranormal entity. I wasn't sure what it was. I was freaked out in the moment, but now that it was gone, I had calmed down and was trying to find a rational solution. I didn't call the police, and I helped JoJo clean the room. She stayed at my apartment for a few nights after our first eventful sleepover. When we finally went back to her place, I agreed to stay over, and there was no shadow figure. When she finally stayed home alone for the first time, she said she slept through the nights without any encounters. 5 years later, and I'm engaged to JoJo now, and we still mash heads with each other over that night. She's convinced that it was a supernatural entity, and I'm convinced that it isn't. The one thing we do agree on is, whatever it was definitely there. I witnessed it with my own eyes and ears. I often think to myself, what would be scarier, if a shadow monster was in her place, or if a person was just there watching her sleep? Either way, I'm happy it never happened again. At least, not yet.